Um, well, as you can see from the sidelines to the field, this is the kind of title we chose here. And the analogy is, some of us, as Marty highlighted, some of us are playing the game. We're throwing touchdowns, maybe throwing some interceptions as well. Some of us are in the locker room still trying to figure out what the game plan is. And some of us are on the sidelines, eager and ready to get out there. There's a lot of AI panels and conversations out there. We've been to a lot of them too that are about the tools, how to 10x your sales funnel, all sorts of shiny objects and promises that are out there. And that's not what we wanted this conversation today to be about. We wanted it to be more real and about the moment, what's really happening right now, because AI is here, whether you know your people are using it or not. And I can tell you they are. And we have ways to look at that. We'll get into some of those fun things as part of the conversation today. But it's the moment when we have to stop watching and start taking action, right? And whatever that looks like, it's different for all of us. I know a lot of you guys are here today is to understand what does that next step look like. So we've got different verticals represented here, 3 different points on the journey. And, they are all, willing to share where they're at in the journey so far. So appreciate having you guys here. Just as a quick introduction, I'm Shane Gronniger. I'm the CEO of GCS Technologies. We've been around Austin 25 plus years. We do managed IT. Nowadays do more managed cybersecurity services and a lot around the Microsoft stack. And of course, AI, right? We're meeting with a lot of different business leaders and having a lot of interesting conversations. And so thought it would be nice to get that conversation out a little bit in the public so we can talk about it together and hopefully share some knowledge today and give everybody kind of a clearer idea on what to do next, or some clarity on what you might already be doing, perhaps. So let's start with each of you. We'll just go down the line here. If you can, just introduce yourself, who you are, your firm, and kind of what you do.
Do I need this mic? Okay. My name is Trey Cobra. I'm the director of IT at D&T Construction. We're about a $650 million civil construction company doing master plan communities and commercial work throughout Texas. When AI really came into our world is connecting. We've got offices in Houston, Austin, San Antonio. We've got about 800 pieces of equipment, 1,200 employees. And it was like, how do we make this all talk? We've got 8 different line of business applications we're paying a bunch of money to. How are we getting value out of that? And so that kind of opened up my world to see how we can make this all talk and go down our AI journey. GCS has been very helpful, helping us discover, like Lo talked about later, there was lots of people using AI that we didn't have control over. And what's been great about the company is we put an AI, governance plan together, who can do it. And I think the hardest part is enforcing it, which I think a lot of people you can put a plan together, but how do you actually make the rules work? So really excited to be here and share everything about what we do with AI.
Well, my name is Tyler Hearn, and I'm the IT Manager of Information Systems at Scott Douglas and McConico here in Austin. We only have this one office. We're a law firm with about 48, 49 attorneys now. And I'm the one on the sideline looking at, trying to figure out what we want. It's a lot of discussion going on right now within our office. We've got a small committee that talks about AI and how we want to use it. And of course, my biggest concern is getting governance in place, getting security in place and all that, because we obviously have clients asking, are we using AI? And I always hesitate to answer the question because I know what the next question is. Well, Greg, how are you going to secure it? And I don't have that answer yet. I'm really working towards getting help from GCS as we get down that road, but we are looking at all the different platforms out there from, to figure out what is going to fit us best. But my main goal is to make sure that the governance and security is in place before we even make a decision of which platform or how we're going to be using it.
Hi, everyone. I'm Mike Wilfley. I'm the Chief Operating Officer of VCFO, that's Virtual CFO. We are a 30-year-old consulting company founded here in Austin by Ellen Wood. And primarily, we provide fractional chief financial officers, controllers, assistant controllers, and human resource professionals to small to medium-sized businesses out of our home office here in Austin, and we have an office in Houston, Dallas, and Denver. We have about 70 or so employees, 60 or so are out in the field that are working directly with our clients as chief financial officers or controllers or HR professionals. And that's how I started with the company in 2012 as a consulting CFO. And as a company, because of the nature of all of our personalities as accountants, we're very conservative. So we border on the edge of paranoia when it comes to what to do with AI, but we have embraced it. And as the discussion rolls along, there's a few examples of what we're trying to do, and we're trying to work with our clients. And we have been a long-term client of GCS, and in fact, I'm the least technically qualified to be up here of the three of us as an accountant, but we've outsourced we have no technology staff. So GCS provides our desktop support. They do onboard training and all of our Microsoft 365, Intune, tenant maintenance management and billing too, by the way. Those bills are getting big, Shane. And I'm happy to be here today, and I'm happy to share our experience and here and later on. And I've got one of our colleagues here that's doing some of the dirty work in a skunkworks way that I'll share as well.
Great. Well, thank you guys. Thank you guys for making the time to be here and again sharing kind of your journey and your story. So, question to any of the three of you, guys, kind of to start this off. What was the moment, or was there a moment, when things changed for you internally, when you realized it's time to start really taking action? Was it a client? Was it clients asking hard questions? Was it a vendor trying to push AI into the environment? I'm just curious, what if anything, was there an inflection point, internally for any of y'all?
I would say when it's, leadership got involved. Leadership was doing their research and started saying, hey, how do we do this? And I had already been going down the rabbit hole with AI, wasn't sure how to be implemented this such a large company. But once leadership bought in, it's like, hey, this is something. That really was the big moment of like, okay, we need to start looking. And then instantly we just started discovering inefficient processes. I think that's what AI is really good at. And so now it's just snowballed into, you do this. Well, can we do this? And I'm like, we don't have enough time to do all this stuff. So I would say once leadership got involved and started doing their research is when it really became a big moment for us.
I think for us, we've been looking at and kind of talking about it for the last year or so. Being a law firm, the attorneys doing legal research, and of course our legal research tools have some AI built into it and all that. And I kind of stayed out of it a little bit, but it was when one of our very eager associates came along and sent me an email with a program that he created through one of the AI apps, I think Claude or whatever, and he wanted me to put it on the network. And it was, time out, hold on, we really got to step back and look at this and try to determine, and I had to get GCS involved to try to help me with some direction. I got to shut this down, because at that point, I got with our managing partner, and he said, yeah, he sent out an email about people not using it and that sort of thing until they got a little bit more direction. But it was internally that we had people, that's why it has all of a sudden in the last 6 months really picked up.
I would, who wants to manage 48 attorneys on AI? We're accountants. We're rule followers. So I have a much easier job than you do, Tyler. I was just going to say, date-wise, I was thinking it was at the end of 23, the beginning of 2024, we, with GCS's help, wrote a AI use policy that we could issue to our employees. And at that time, we had several of our executives showing up with some really good research results from using OpenAI, just going out and asking questions. And so at that point, we knew it was real. And of course, it just scared the crap out of us. So it took a while for us to really engage more again after that. But we've really, it's been a couple of years when we realized it's over. Of course, it's been there for a while in the accounting and HR industry in terms of all the other tools that we use that are attached to QuickBooks Online, or all the other things you use with banks and Bill.com and Expensify and all of those kind of apps, all have an element of AI in them. You think about being able to take a picture of a receipt and then have it completely fill out a form accurately and pull off the amounts and the dates and the place and all of that. That's all AI. And so it's been around for a while, but it wasn't home or close and personal until a few years ago.
That's come a long way for sure. And I think it's interesting you say some of all these different applications you point out, because what you are planning to bring AI into your business or not, it's trickling in oftentimes through vendors and line of business applications, right? And if you have the right stack, that's a good thing. You don't have to go build your own AI agents. You don't have to go figure out what platforms to use. But then that also begs the question, right, of vendor risk management. And, what are these guys doing to, keep things safe? So that's good. It sounds like generally at the leadership level at each of your organizations, there's an appetite, and a curiosity to start leveraging AI. Are there any other, what other conversations are happening at leadership level around this, like in terms of adoption or risk?
One thing I'm working on is production reporting. It's pretty stagnant. Field fills out their time cards, put in their quantities, they put whatever they have, and then evaluating is that real data? Is it good data? Are we going to be able to be profitable? And so that's a standard Power BI report that goes out. Well, there's a Power BI report with no action in my mind, at least I'm seeing with AI, is not valuable. What leadership, you don't know what are you supposed to do? All right, this is going wrong. What's our next move? Leadership wanted to evaluate the anomalies. What is the ones that are really something's going on here? So being able to bring in that data into Azure, the SQL Server, and being able to have AI, Azure's doing all the work, but then ChatGPT is summarizing and putting that in a way it's structured for leadership to get a daily report. And that's what they wanted versus just staring at a giant Power BI report of 1,100 employees. So that was kind of the big push lately.
The big thing that's being focused on right now is just being able to help the attorneys. There's plenty of tools out there that we can use to help them analyze and write briefs and answer, do pleadings and that sort of thing, all the different ones. But the one thing that we're really trying to focus on right now is, being a litigation firm, was that we will get tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of documents from clients or from opposing counsel that we have to analyze. And back in the day, you put it in your e-discovery and the attorneys would go through it. They might be able to search for words here and there, but they needed something to go in and really analyze and maybe ask it specifically if, for specific issues across these documents and stuff. And that's where we're trying to focus on more right now, is how that fits into our e-discovery platform right now, more than it does just analyzing and, creating documents. That's kind of already there, and they're kind of using it a little bit in our legal research application, but it's analyzing those, literally hundreds of thousands of documents that we can have for one case.
And what are you guys using specifically? Are you using Copilot? Are you using ChatGPT? Is it a mix? Do you know generally what your folks are using?
So for a lot of the writing of the pleadings and briefs and what's like that, Westlaw is the main player out there for legal research. So they have co-counsel, and so that's what they're using. We also have a few licenses of Copilot that we're testing internally to see how that can work, as far as trying to help, with its integration into Microsoft 365 and helping the attorneys stay organized and do different things like that. But we have not really found anything yet that's working well with our e-discovery platform or Relativity. So that's where the focus is right now. And of course, with all the hype with some of these different ones, they all come in and say they can integrate in and show it, but we haven't seen it yet. So
I was going to add that as a consulting firm, we have 150, 200 clients at any one time. and we have a lot of their financial data. So other financial data, their human resource data. So we are paranoid about, and we have an contractual obligation to protect that. And so whatever we're doing, that's generally that's where our interest in and use of AI starts, is how do we protect our clients' data and our own data, and in whatever form that is. We have been able to rely on Purview and Defender on the cloud to be able to limit what AI models people can go out and use on their own. So, Microsoft has this great scoring system. Right now, we've got it cut off at 8. If you score below an 8 as an AI model, we don't give you anybody access to it. And we can sanction things, and I get a shadow AI report, and I know when Brandon gets into one of his funky little AI projects that he's trying to do, and he's attempting to use some model that's not sanctioned, it shows up. He doesn't get into it, but I know his footprints are all over it. So we try to manage it, and our data security and protection is really paramount in everything we do.
So what do you think, in that note, what do you think about your competitors? Because we think about that sometimes, and I know talking to other businesses as well, there's this feeling of urgency right now to start using AI in whatever ways we can, because our competitors are already doing it. They're going to be 1, 2, 3 steps ahead of us. What is your take, any of y'all or each of you individually, on how you see the opinion of AI in your industry, and how do you, are you concerned about keeping up with the competitors and like clients' expectations getting higher, right? Getting better reports, faster data, because they're assuming you should be using these things, right?
Yeah, I'll speak to that briefly. Clients expect us to be, to know what's going on currently in the marketplace. That's kind of table stakes, but they also are hiring us to be strategic CFOs and HR people. And so, there's the competitors and there are a lot. And what's more interesting is that there's a lot of firms that are becoming competitors that weren't before. So big example would be CPA firms. They've all branched out now into the CAS. So, client advisory services, which is built around a lot of these tools and things to be able to fill in around their downtime between audits and tax returns. And so they're competing against us. And the differentiator really is that's fine, but they aren't CFOs. I mean, they hadn't been 30 years as a CFO of public and private companies like many of our CFOs are. So you're still renting a fractional CFO with 30 years of experience in that chair to be on your side of the table to help you make these decisions. And the competitors are trying to leverage the tools. And we're happy that a lot of the tools are getting leveraged that are at the lower end of processing. It makes the data cleaner. A lot of our engagements initially with clients, and our VP of operations, Donna Zinsmeyer, calls it crap to gap. She comes, we have to come in and make your books presentable so that you can go to the bank. I mean, people really, they think we say, are you on cash or accrual? We said, oh, we're on accrual because we use the slider in QuickBooks Online to say accrual. Perfect. We'll be right there. So there's a lot. And I think it'll eventually slice into a lot of what we do on the pedestrian level. On the strategic level, not so much.
I think that our clients are definitely asking us to use it for multiple reasons, to be able to, when you can cut down the amount of time it takes to review stuff and that sort of thing. As far as competitors go, I mean, I know that other law firms out there are implementing AI. There's some that are on the side like I am. There are some that are, in it head deep and trying to figure it out. And I had not gotten a lot of feedback from our attorneys about, competitors. I do get some feedback about, with some of these large cases we've got, co-counsel, and we have co-counsel that's using it, and they were able to take these documents and get an answer back on these issues like that. Why can't we do that? And I'm like, well, we need to look at it, because I don't know what they're doing from a security standpoint. They could be the ones running with the scissors, and I don't want to be the one. I don't want to be the firm running with the scissors. So there is definitely some, concern about that from that standpoint.
It's Trey, you touched on it earlier a little bit in the construction industry, and I think very hands-on business, right? Like it was interesting because you talked to us a little bit, about how you're using AI. Can you elaborate a little bit on like how you're using it to manage your fleet machinery? I think that's an interesting use case. Like,
Yeah. So, I mean, what our fleet, our shop, we have 800 pieces of equipment, and we just realized, how do we track all of this stuff? Buckets, I mean, all the accessories. And so what AI first did, and we were able to collect all of our essentially old Excel spreadsheets. And I was just like, holy crap. As I've jokingly become the new assistant shop manager, because I'm able to see everything now. We're able to use tools. We use a software called Tenna. And what I'm able to do now is actually start pulling those actual numbers and runtime off equipment, and then be able to compare it with our line of business application, and actually say, this person did XYZ amount of time. He said he did 8 hours worth of work, and the machine only ran, 5 hours. Well, that's an anomaly. That's a percentage that is out of the norm for that person's going to do. So by tying that into Azure, we're able to now basically prompt. We built our own internal ChatGPT 4.0 instance. So we're connecting those two datas into there to basically summarize. Same thing we're doing with production rates, some people put in their time. So what it's allowed us to do is know where equipment is and quickly give it to leadership to make quicker decisions, because these are $1 million pieces of equipment. We need to move them. They move daily sometimes. So leveraging AI was able to give us visibility that we never had before.
that's great. Thanks for sharing that. I think it's a really cool use case, right? And probably some real ROI there as well, because I think that's the other thing is there's a lot of demos and a lot of promises out there, but there's very few people we talk to that can at least yet have a very measurable ROI on what they're doing. There's a lot of experimentation happening. And so I'm curious if the other two of you guys have had any kind of measurable either cost or ROI on any of the things that you've started to do.
Not really at this point, outside of just licensing for Copilot. Well, I guess the cost for co-counsel with legal with the Westlaw is a cost in there. As far as what it, I just don't really have an idea of far as return on investment as far as that goes on it from that standpoint right now. We're just still on the sidelines trying to figure this out before we dive into it and that sort of thing. So there's really not a lot of costs or anything like that involved.
A number of years ago, Shane and his team helped us kind of transition our technology infrastructure, and he commented that they turned our office into a Starbucks. We've got Wi-Fi and good coffee, and actually we have good Wi-Fi and so-so coffee. But
Servers out of the middle.
Yeah, we did. And you hauled off the servers. So everything we do is in the cloud. So we have ShareFile, where we have all of our file management for ourselves and for clients. We have Acumatica as an accounting system, is cloud-based. And of course, Microsoft 365 and all that goes with that in terms of managing logins and managing our fleet of laptops out into the field. Well, one of the things we did a couple of years before the AI kind of explosion was 3 or 4, actually 5 years ago probably, we developed a separate VCFO portal. So we stood up a Azure virtual machine, a server there, and we, with a programming partner, put a application on it to help us manage our quality program, which is really the tracking and communication through the client lifecycle. So we would keep up with client memos, We do the reviews of the staff that are working on projects. We'd be able to track all of the hours that people have worked on projects. We're able to forecast, what they think the hours are going to be. So we used it for utilization. So that has been a great tool, and it's kind of the landing place where most of our consultants start and stop their day if they're working, is there in that portal. But the managers didn't always have the best view of what's going on. And so with, and this was Steel Consulting out in El Paso, they helped us develop a AI tool through, and then in this case we're using Grok, but out on this server, which is away from both our accounting system, our file system, and everything else, we pull that information that's already out there. So timesheet data, and it's just timesheet data, comments, just like law firm comments, and we're not as verbose as you guys, but they have good comments, and the time worked, and the statement of work, and the MSA, and so forth, and a series of questions, and the limitation of being able to focus on a project or two that were in your domain as a managing director, and ask questions. And it can go out and say, and it'll return a report and say that we've executed these things on the statement of work, and we've done these things that aren't on the statement of work. And here's a client memo that we can help explain this, and we can share this with the client. So and it's done through kind of canned prompts that are sent through an API out to one of the older Grok models, so a smaller one, and it returns a really great response for the managing directors and others in management. And we bought $200 worth of credits at the beginning of the year for the Grok model, and we still haven't used them all up. So it's very cost effective in token use, which can be a huge thing in when you start blowing out these really bigger programs. So we're doing that, and the good news is it's not any of our clients' proprietary data. It's just our data about our clients, and so it's very helpful for them and for us.
And I think that's the gain that a lot of people are, those that are figuring out how to implement AI in these engines internally, right, and pair it against their company data, right? So not just having a web chat where you're going back and forth and of course sending data into the web, but bringing that capability down into your environment, being able to access data in ways that you've never done before. We're doing it as well at GCS, and you made a comment earlier. It does a really good job of showing you where there's inefficiencies, because there's all sorts of anomalies and things like that, and cracks, right, that are hard to see and when they're buried in Excel reports.
One thing, you talk about ROI. Anytime you sit in an executive meeting, first thing the owners always say, how much is it going to cost? All right, what's our ROI? Then the sales thing, what's our ROI? And it's the same two other time. And you're like, well, I don't know. Well, how much is it? How much is our current cost costing us? And no one generally, a lot of times, doesn't know so how do you even get an ROI yet? So what I'm noticing, at least in my research with AI, it's going to help create baselines for leadership. So you can actually really, the sales pitch, look at the ROI you're going to get. Well, that's the sales pitch. Let's get a real baselines throughout the whole entire business. And so now we can actually start budgeting correctly or doing all these things and bringing all that stuff to the table so we can actually have a ROI discussion. I think it's early on for most businesses.
I was just going to say ROI is a bit of it's hard to do that right now in AI. And I've read that it's really just not the right metric yet. But I agree with you. In time, there'll be more of a baseline that you'll compare some of the developments on. But right now, what's an ROI on something that's as nebulous as AI?
I think it's a great point, because that ROI kind of conversation comes up all the time. And right, as a business operator or owner, or even as running a department, right, you're watching cost, right? There's got to be an ROI on things. But what we believe and what we're telling most of our clients we're consulting with as well is that if you're not doing anything is also a risk, right? It's just a different kind of risk that you're accepting. And if you're not spending, I don't want to say wasting, but if you're not spending some money on AI right now, at least experimenting, then you should be, right? You're probably not doing it right. So And again, you don't want to be stuck on the sidelines. And I think as we look internally, we look at what our clients are doing and what you guys are doing, there are people within the organizations that are embracing these tools, either with direction or without direction from the top. And so we see it as well as like a burgeoning skill set, right? Knowing how to write and craft the right prompts. But that's not even it, right? There's so many other layers to these things that go deeper around skills and just all sorts of other stuff. And so on that note, has this changed at all how you think about hiring going forward and what you might look for, in candidates, having some type of skill or familiarity in using AI specifically?
You didn't have this question on the list
As
before.
a curveball.
But I was thinking about it last night because I was thinking of the three of us up here, and you cannot go out and buy or hire a senior AI professional to come in and help you do this. They don't exist yet. I mean, they are there, but they're all in California and they're all propeller heads and they're actually doing it, right? But all of the rest of us in industry that are needing to develop people that understand AI, well, I mean, you're like 2 years in. I mean, come on. I mean, we're hiring people. We don't get to hire on college campuses because we're hiring experienced consultants and HR and CFOs. Well, they're 30 years into their career and, they can spell AI. But I mean, it just, there's a limitation on what you can expect in kind of a senior executive to know, but they do need to be trainable, right? And that's the next stage for us, is being able to train all of our people. Everybody wants a note taker. And so we're arguing now about which thing to turn on in teams in order to give everybody that capability. But if you turn on too much, all of a sudden they got their hands on the Holy Grail, a co-pilot, and what in the hell are they going to do with that? And so we've got to, you've got to meter those things with training. So it's not as fun as it would be to hire people that have great AI skills, and I'm sure we'll all be able to do that if we're not doing it now, but in time. What's probably more important is to be able to hire trainers or to understand or to pay to train all your people to understand how to use it, because that's where we are today in the industry. There just aren't enough senior AI professionals in the business industry to really put in roles that can do what people like Brandon do, has that background.
Skunk works, that's what you call it. Yeah.
Well, I think the expression AI is not going to replace you. A person using AI is going to replace you. That's kind of the big buzz phrase. I think you have, if you're talking hiring, looking for people that are willing to learn and adapt. Everyone in this room has a very specific set of skills. I don't know why it sounds like I'm quoting Taken. But everyone has this knowledge and history and experienced in the workforce. And if you ensuring people that are leveraging AI just as a thought partner, you're not trusting AI, but you're using it as a thought partner, you're just going to it's a force multiplier. You're going to be able to do so much more and be able to start realizing what you're trying to put on paper. Sometimes it's hard to take what's up here and have a conversation. So finding people that are willing to do that. And one other thing, I'm being on the IT side, I'm uniquely positioned because I do work a lot with our operations on software implementations and processes of how we're going to implement things. I'm an IT guy that now I can be a developer. And usually in the world, it used to be IT and dev. And dev guys always wanted to be admins, and IT said, no, you can't be. And that battle back and forth. And now I'm like, I get to be both. And this would have never happened if, this AI revolution wouldn't have happened. So embracing it and looking for people that are, everybody on my team, we're in a governed, safe AI, ChatGPT space that they're allowed to use. But I mean, I'm upskilling my guys way quicker than they ever would. And they're actually getting re-engaged, of trying to learn about Microsoft certifications and all the different stuff that they can do. I'm like, yeah, we can, if you want an application, we can write it. We don't have to hire somebody to do it. And but now we've got the infrastructure brain, which a lot of there's dev people in here. I apologize, but I just say, and like they don't have the infrastructure brand, they don't have security and backups, and how do we implement it? Yeah, exactly. But that was a long rant, but it just kind of aligns with employment and thinking about people.
Yeah, no, I think that's an interesting topic too around building applications, right? We're all becoming, in a way, software developers. It didn't mean to be. This whole vibe coding, I'm sure many of you have heard of this term where you can now just prompt the AI and say, I want an application that does this, this, and this, and I want it to look like that, and it builds it for you. It's amazing.
Close.
Close. And
You still got to put the work.
yeah, for sure. But it's interesting, right? The barrier to creativity. So many of us have good ideas, but we don't know how to code. We can't build. Now we can, which is great. But you got all these people in the organizations building these little micro apps. I think, Tyler, you mentioned it. Somebody came to you and said, hey, I built an app to help us manage our XYZ. It's like, whoa, hold on. Is that secure? How are we going to host it? There was a conversation amongst some of our peers in our industry about this new tool that's floating around, this software application, this platform to help manage, different pieces of our business. And it looks really nice and shiny, but the back channel chatter, amongst the community on Reddit is, oh, that was just some infrastructure guy who doesn't know anything about coding and vibe coded it in a weekend, and now he's selling it, right? So beware, because we've come across platforms that they've been thrown together very quickly. So you have a lot of amateurs out there, and I'll count myself as one of them, that are building software, right, just for our own hobbies or experimental use. But it's a whole different story when you talk about putting that into, production in an environment.
Yeah, I mean, everyone in here, probably every business pays way too much for software and sees that line and like, why are we paying all this money for all this stuff? And it doesn't do exactly what we want anyway. It gets it close. And so if we're talking ROI, I see a future path where people are going to start building their own applications, at least customize it to themselves and host it privately and make it secure, and may not be as fancy, but if it gets the job done and it saves you a couple $100,000 a year, I mean, it's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
We did several years ago when we were starting out, we struggled with, what's a good use case that we can actually develop and implement or do for our clients' benefit, for our benefit. And we just struggled with it. And then more recently, we've had some good examples, and I keep pointing at Brandon, but he's done it. One of our CFOs have done it. They've taken the CFO that did it with a client used Claude, and they built a forecast model, a multi-year forecast model that they rolled into an Excel workbook and are managing their long-term forecast with, which is fantastic. What Brandon's been able to do, and he's done presentations now in groups like this, is reverse engineer the Claude prompts so that you can it will develop based on your specific business use case and industry and region, and however fine-tuned you want to get it, all the way down to, at the end, putting in synthetic data to test it, and then creating a workbook. So basically creating a 5-year forecast plan for a business, and then handing it to, which is completely off the grid at that point, to our client and say, okay, let's populate it with your data and make it real. In the past, that would be a 40-hour exercise with a CFO at $350 an hour. And now you can do that. I said, how long does it take you to do that? And he said, well, an afternoon. 4 hours as opposed to 40. I mean, that's a 10x, and it's a better model than we have on our shelf, and we have a lot of them on our shelves. And to be able to do that real time with a client and then hand it to them, and it's theirs. It's a big workbook that they can use and run with, is a specific use case, and it's a handoff product that doesn't have to continue to be tied to the internet. Doesn't have to be tied to AI. It's just your model, your business information, and your forecast. It's gotten very powerful.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up, because I think that also goes back into why I asked the question around how we're thinking about hiring and this as a skill for employees, right? Because there are people in our organization and others, right, that are kind of anti-AI. They don't want to have anything to do with it. And, people aren't coming for, AI is not coming for your jobs, but people that embrace it, know how to use AI are coming for your jobs. And I think it's a great example, right, of you can take an employee or a role, right, a function within the business, and you can literally, right, 5 or 10x the output of that role just with these tools on their belt, right? And I think that there's a lot of examples, multiple examples of that within each of our businesses, right? So it's how do we tap that? And that's why we're looking at all future hires at GCS, and we're maybe a little different because we're a technology company. As part of our job is to really understand this stuff. But yeah,
I think everybody's a technology company these days, whether you want to be or not.
you kind of have to be, right? Yeah. We'll start getting towards the last couple of questions here. What would be, if you looked ahead 6 months or a year, what does the ideal playing field look like for each of you in terms of where you're at with AI, what clarity you might have?
In 6 months from now, I'd like to have, we've probably got 8 line of business apps. I'd love to have 4 of them, actually talking and interacting.
Yeah.
And being able to give a deliverable to leadership that they can kind of their daily go in there, summarize what I need to pay attention to today, and get them some sort of guidance. Because as companies grow and as you're a leader in the business, there's so many people reporting to you. So if I could get at least 4 of those applications talking, and I've got 1 of them going, so maybe it's a lofty goal to get another 3 in there, but that would be an ideal playing field for me to have some sort of centralized data actually working.
So I think, if I were to go back to the office this afternoon, I could probably get this done in an afternoon, and that is, building up my governance in best AI use case deal. But knowing how we work and how slow lawyers are sometimes, I think in 6 months, I would like to have a good governance policy in place, a good AI use policy in place, and know the direction that we're going, that we have chosen whatever products, or we're bringing in our own, whatever it is, to start utilizing it, and be able to, have a clear direction and give our clients a clear answer as to how we're using AI and how we're protecting their data from that standpoint.
By the end of this year, we're going to end up having for ourselves, and in theory could offer for our clients, a walled garden of an AI tool in an environment that's air gapped from the internet, and it's got your company data or whatever data you want, and you can pound the hell out of it with all of your people having access to it with permissions and whatnot, and really evaluate your business, evaluate product introductions and efficiency, ROI, all of those things, without the fear of this ending up in China. And I think, if in 2 years, we would like is that the commitment from, OpenAI and Microsoft and Claude, that when they say you can put your data into our model to work with and make decisions, it absolutely isn't going anywhere else, and we'll give it right back to you. And I don't think anybody in the country feels like that's actually true today. So,
yeah, I think clarity, right, is something that we're all wanting a little bit more of. The tools are there, they're maturing, but having a better understanding of how some of this stuff works. And we're still learning some of that too. There's new things on the market. We haven't talked a lot about the different models, and we didn't want to get too techie today, and we're happy to take questions and have further deeper conversations outside of this. But there's ChatGPT, there's Copilot, there's Claude, there's all these different flavors, and generally Copilot, the consensus for most of us over the last year or two has been it's behind, right? It's not catching up with all these other models. And Microsoft has made some really big partnerships recently, specifically with Anthropic, which is the company that released Claude, which is everybody's, favorite AI tool right now. But enterprise software, it takes longer to develop. It's more thoughtful, and that's good, right? Because there are guardrails in that environment. And like you said, this future state of being able to have it air gapped, or just knowing that we can put our data through that and have it, all be within the security guardrails. And we're getting really close. And
Do we have clients that are ultra conservative, and then we have the run with scissors guys too? And just as a cautionary tale, we have a client, a high net worth individual, came in and worked with the CFO that he normally works with, and he said, he'd gotten his tax return back from his CPA, and he put it into Claude to find out if the CPA had done a really good job and if they'd gotten all the deductions he could get. And our CFO said, "You put your tax return into Claude? That isn't smart." So, there's a lot of stuff to happen over the course of the next few years. There's going to be some, fits and starts, and we'll go forward 2 steps and back 2. We're going to make some mistakes.
There's a need for education, right? And helping people, helping our employees understand, like, when it's okay to put something into a chat, when it's not, where that thing's going. And then some of the things we'll preview here after, while we were eating lunch, just to have a few more slides, is around how to govern and monitor, some of that stuff, and how to also prevent things from being slipped into a chat, either purposefully or, just an employee doesn't realize they're uploading a document that has sensitive data. There are systems that can filter that in real time, and those systems are getting better and better. So we'll wrap it up here, because I want to get everyone to the food line and out of here on time today. But last question. This is more bringing it back to the human element of things, because I mentioned earlier we're a technology company, but we're really not. We're a services business. We're a people company. It's all about trust. It's about relationships. Our clients don't buy servers and infrastructure from us. They buy the ability to sleep at night and have somebody they can call that they trust. And I think with AI, it increases the need to be monitoring that stuff even tighter. But one thing that we always say that we'll never automate is the customer experience, right? The phone call, the things that won't ever scale in our business are the handshakes, the tough kind of conversations with customers, some of those things that really matter. And so I would ask each of you guys, as we close this out, what is one core thing, that makes you who you are, that will always stay out of the AI? Is there something notable you can think of?
I would say I'm a people person. I enjoy people. I enjoy helping others. I view all of the employees at D&T as my clients, and I want to help my clients' clients. That's all the people that are doing work with us. So at the end of the day, though, an AI can only take you so far, but me as I still have to interact with the human. I want to look them in the eye. I want to still get a read on their face. And, I always say, you don't know what happened to someone 10 minutes ago, and what they're struggling with and what happened to them. So AI is really becoming scarily good at empathy with people interacting with it. So, because empathy was always a big word for me. So it's kind of like, oh man, that's kind of crazy. So I'm hoping somehow we can keep that separate and understand what real empathy is from human to human versus empathy to a robot or a machine.
I think that over the years, our attorneys, they need more and more and more hand holding, and I'm glad I'm there to help hold their hand. And I don't think AI is going to take that away, regardless of how much training or whatever. They're always going to need somebody there. And I'm glad that I've, been that person. I've been at the firm for over 40 years now. And so, I just do not see that changing in me. It's something that I try to stress in my team that I have, is that don't answer an email just with a quick short, go down and see them. We're all in the same, we're right there. We're within 2 floors. Walk down and see them face to face is so much better, because the attorneys will react so much better to that than just an email or whatever. So that, I don't think the AI is ever going to take that away.
Mike?
People come to VCFO and they hire a fractional CFO, like all of our consultants, because they've got 25 years of experience and They've been rode hard and put up wet in real time over the course of the last 25 years in their, in these businesses. And they want that experience and the intuition that comes with that. And I think, it's hard to replace. Having said that, a lot of that information, though, is just the very thing that in time AI probably will replace a good deal of. So I still think the personal connection is incredibly valuable for our client relationships, because we sit on the same side of the table with the CEO when he's talking to the banker, or when he's talking to his investors, or at the board of directors. And, you can't really put a robot next to you. I mean, you really need a real person who's been there before and done that in a number of different circumstances, and can share with you how best to present your business to some diverse group that you're trying to win over. And it's something I think we'll probably always have as a kind of a differentiator. But I think the Terminator's coming eventually. I mean, Skynet is real.
No, I think I wanted to draw back to the human element, because I think it's important. There's a lot of doom and gloom out there. There's also a lot of AI fanatics out there too. And I think the answer is likely in the middle. There is a lot of hype, but I think there's still a lot of there's a lot of space, for the human in the loop and on the loop. And we say a lot, being in IT, we spend a lot of time behind the keyboard, and our people are going to have to learn to get out in front of that keyboard more and more. As that human element of the business becomes more valued, I think, over time. So, want to wrap it up here. Wanted to see if anybody, while we're up here, have any questions that they want to pose to the panel, or just in general. We'd be happy to take those. And if not now, we can chat, outside of this. We'll send everybody to the food line there. And then I've got a few more slides that I'll cover while everyone's eating, that really is around next steps, and like what does AI readiness or enablement look like? What are businesses generally doing, after this conversation? What happens next? We talked a little bit about shadow AI and some of those things. We have some ways to gain that information, right, and synthesize that into, helping people build roadmaps to get on the field and off the sidelines. So, but thank you guys. Really appreciate you guys being here.